Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week. This is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. And of course, hopefully you guys could go subscribe, like this video, and also comment, because it really does help the channel. But let's jump into this week's comics. We have 11 comics, so a pretty average haul for me, sized-wise. And number 11 for me was actually a book I was really anticipating, and that was M.O.M, Mother of Madness, issue 1. This is written by Emilia Clarke, so we get to see an actress writing a book, writing a comic, which is super interesting, and teaming up with Marguerite Bennett. But, again, was really excited, didn't know much about the book, but I felt like this kind of was all over the place. Right from the start, you kind of had this Deadpool fourth wall breaking moment, and it really skips around a lot, where it's really hard to kind of get into the narrative. Also, the artwork kind of felt average to me. I feel like there could have been a bit more detailed pencils, I would say. Some of the facial expressions were a little weak for me. But yeah, overall, it was just really hard to get into the dialogue. It was just hard to get into the story. It felt very jumpy. It kind of felt like a Doom Patrol issue to me. I've only read a bit of Doom Patrol, but especially that newer Doom Patrol stuff, kind of felt like that, just the way it jumped and the weird powers that they played with. But yeah, it just wasn't for me, sadly. I wish I enjoyed this a little bit more. So I'm going to give that 1.5 stars, and that is number 11. Moving on to number 10. I was iffy to get this issue because I wasn't sure if it was really going to be connected to anything, and it wasn't, and that was Thor Annual issue 1. Only reason I got this is that there wasn't a ton of books this week, so I'm like, all right, I'm reading Thor. Maybe this could be a good one-shot of some sort. I'm not following Infinite Destinies, which it seems like every kind of random book has a little 5-page story from that event. I don't really know what's going on with that event because I'm not following Black Cat and Iron Man Annual. I don't know. It's been so weird the way they've been putting this event into different books. But we had the Thor Annual, really, really wordy. It wasn't Donny Cates. It was actually an artist and a writer, that Cooter, who again wrote and drew this book. And it just didn't really flow well for me. It didn't really feel connected to anything, and it didn't feel like a worthwhile one-shot either. So I feel like this one's rather skippable, kind of boring, at least for me, and I wish it was a little bit more, I guess, entertaining or connected to something. It just didn't really feel like a necessary issue, especially because the writer who usually writes the book isn't writing this issue. So I'm overall giving that 1.5 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, a book that's been on a break for a while, and that is Chew issue 6. Not a bad issue, but I think, honestly, since we've had the break, I've kind of realized, like, I like this book, but it's always kind of in the middle of my pile. It's never really, oh my god, I can't wait to read Chew, and this arc kind of felt the same way. It's like, okay, what new information are we getting? It doesn't really move that much the plot, because it is based on a book that's already done, and they're trying to weave that story together. I also didn't read the original Chew, so I don't have much of a background from that mythology or a connection, so getting up to issue 6, I'm like, okay, how is this going to move? How is it going to be exciting? It's been a while since we've had the last issue, and it really didn't do much for me, besides the cartoony artwork. I like that. I like the family dynamic, but there wasn't much of that in this issue, so I think I might drop this book just because, again, I had that long hiatus, and I didn't quite miss it, sadly. So, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is Marauders, issue 22. Always sad to see this lower than top 5. I love this book. I love the concept of this book, but there are issues that definitely stray, and that was this one. It's the aftermath of the Hellfire Gala, which I thought was kind of all over the place. Every issue really had to do with its series, and it didn't feel as connected as it could have, like X of Swords was. And this is the aftermath of Scarlet Witch's death. No one quite seems to care too much, besides that it's a news piece, and it's the Cuckoos dealing with this girl that has been affected by them. And then we get some flashbacks with the Hellfire Gala and Emma's connection to Sebastian. Without Kitty in this issue, without any of the other members, it just felt like a filler issue, and I'm sad to say it. I mean, it was nice to get like an old school Hellfire Gala vibe. Or Hellfire Club vibe. I actually enjoyed the art style for that, just because it did bring us back to like this kind of 80s tone. I enjoyed that, but wasn't a necessary issue. How's this going to tie into anything? I don't know. It felt kind of fillerish for the sake of, I guess a somewhat happening, I don't want to say a lot happened in Hellfire Gala, but there is some stuff that I think you could pick up on. And I don't know if this issue really did that to its fullest. And I miss Kitty. Kitty's great. And I love Emma. She just didn't really hold the fort for this one, though. So giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Captain Marvel issue 30. And this is the end, finally, of this Magic arc. I really liked the beginning of the Magic arc as we got to see Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel interacting. But once we went back to that, this is going to be a confusing language, but back to that future story that we had from the last arc, I kind of lost investment because the future story went on for so long, and then we're tying into it again, and really everything was just kind of resolved very easily. We get to see Captain Marvel get back with her boyfriend, and we get a little bit of a fight between Enchantress and Namor's son, and then everything just kind of ties up in a beautiful bow, and then we have a Miss Marvel story with Captain Marvel just to kind of extend this issue a bit. For some reason they want to make this extra size, and I feel like they could have done even more with that. I love their relationship. There's some good back and forth there, but it's not much of a story. It's just a backup story. So I'm curious obviously to see where the series goes, but I think they're kind of lasting on some lingering plot lines that really should have wrapped up a while ago. Artwork is obviously always solid for this book, though. I do enjoy that. I actually like the artwork even more for the backup story, and even the writing for the backup story a bit more. But overall, giving that one 2.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which I got on whim just because, again, it was kind of a small week for me. So I got Shazam issue 1. I am not following Teen Titans Academy. I dropped that a little while ago, but I like Shazam, and I was able to skim through some of the pages. I'm like, oh, Mary's in this. I do like Mary. And there's parts I enjoy about this issue. Everything except the Teen Titans Academy stuff, which is the bulk of the issue, because he is going to this school. He's kind of losing his abilities for his powers. They're not working the way they used to, and that's always interesting, but something we've seen before with Shazam. But then when Mary comes and says, hey, Freddy's hurt, Freddy might die, come back home, and Billy's trying to deal with that, I thought that was definitely the best moment. But then we kind of escape from that and go back to the main plot of Teen Titans Academy and the students and what's going on there, and I guess tying into the future state stuff as well. It just didn't do it for me. I kind of wish we stayed in the moments of Freddy is dying, your brother's dying, and you're trying to ignore it. I feel like if they savored those moments a little more, this issue would have been a little better for me. It definitely wasn't a bad issue. Artwork was pretty solid for this book, and I just don't know if it gave me enough to want to pick up issue 2, and that's definitely an issue. It is a 4-issue miniseries, but because I'm not reading Teen Titans Academy, it's not really grabbing me, say, oh my god, I need that issue 2. Also, because Future State, you kind of know where the series is going already, and it was just a fine book with Future State. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 6? Or was that number 7? Let's see. I think that was number 6. That was number 6. Moving on to number 5, and that is Power Rangers issue 9. And I really enjoyed the character interactions with this one. We get to see Trini really go on the edge here, exploring her powers a bit, exploring her connection to the morphing grid, which I thought was super interesting. I love the mythology building here. I also like, Zach integrating himself into this alien community. I don't quite care about the alien community as someone who's not a sci-fi fan, so that definitely deterred me from the issue. But then you go back to the Lord Draken moments and them interacting with Lord Draken, seeing what he wants. When it has to do with the team, when it has to do with building that morphing grid mythology, that's where this issue's at its strongest. But then when it goes back to, the kind of random alien characters, it's a little harder to get into those parts. But I still feel like this was a pretty well-balanced issue. Artwork is always really strong for this book. Kind of has a Daniele feel, an anime feel to it. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars. I enjoyed this issue. I still like the other series a little bit more, but I'm glad we're getting some movement in this book. And again, Lord Draken's just such an interesting character to have in here with the interaction of Trini, Zach, and Jason. So moving on to number 4, a book I've been waiting forever to get that next issue, and that is Second Coming, Only Begotten Son, issue 3. I love this book. It's one of my favorite books on stands. I just wish it came out a little bit more often. And with this issue, there's not much plot progression, but there's some really interesting commentary where we get to see Jesus gets, I guess, found by this super church guy who doesn't even read the Bible and just wants to make money off of him. And there's this really interesting parallel between his past, and how people utilize religion and relics to their advantage to make money. And I thought that was really interesting. We do get a side story with the superhero trying to deal with having a son and a family and still wanting to be a hero, and how do you balance all that. I do think that was very much a B story and maybe not as connected as it could have been, but I really like the Jesus stuff. And I like the ending where we get to see the intern that works for this mega church ends up becoming a disciple for Jesus. I thought that was a lot of fun. Overall, it's such a witty book. There's so much great dialogue in this book, and just so many interesting tidbits explored about life. And it's just such a good book. And I love the more clear superhero visuals when it comes to the present, and then you get this really dark and gritty past when it comes to Jesus's past. And I really do like the contrast with the book as well, and never can get over how beautiful that is. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4, I believe. So we're moving on to number 3, and that is Radiant Black, issue 6. Now, this is a different artist, and it's same writer. I actually think there might be a co-writer for this one. Yeah, there's a co-writer for this one, and we get to see the background of the Radiant Red, I guess we'll call her. They haven't really officially said their names yet, but how did she become this, and how her family saw her and her fiance as this perfect couple. The fiance has gambling problems, has utilized her money, but she still loves him, still wants to see their future, even though he's not really a great guy, even if the family thinks he is, and now she's stealing money to try to support the both of them, even though he kind of screwed her over. So I'm curious to see where they're at in this present time, because the next issue is going to go back to the original cliffhanger. But I love getting this scene and getting into this character and understanding this character before we get to that moment. I didn't love that there was a change of artwork. I do wish we had the same artist. It was slightly jarring, but also, it is an origin story. It is very different from the other story, so it's kind of forgivable that we don't have the same artist. But the story was really interesting, and I'm curious to see where this is going to go and learn more about these other Radiant characters and how gray they are. They're definitely not a villain or a hero. There's definitely some moral ambiguity here. So I enjoyed that aspect. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Shadecraft issue 5. Now, the worst part of this is that this is the last issue for a while. So the end of the book says, hey, we're writing volume 2. We didn't know it was going to be as successful as it was. We're happy it is, because we want to write more. We're making a TV show. So it seems like it's going to be a while until we get the second volume. But it honestly was a really good ending, where we get to see the family working together to save Sadie's brother. And we learn a little bit more about the government group that was with their mom. We get some really good interaction between them, and just a good family issue. But in the end of the issue, life's never going to be the same. The brother does wake up, but we don't really get to see that moment to the fullest, and they move away. The people know that the government's hunting them, so their life is going to look a lot different, and it won't be as grounded maybe in the next arc. I'm curious to see where that's gonna go, but this book always was about family, and the artwork was so good, the action's really good, but it's that dynamic between the family that really makes it. And I'm just sad that we won't get another issue next month, because I've really been enjoying this book. Overall, it was a really solid finale. It was very action driven, obviously, so there wasn't maybe as much plot as previous issues, but it's still a really well-rounded finale for me. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. All right, moving on to number 1, which is Nightwing issue 82. Of course, Nightwing is amazing. This was a really solid issue. It's the aftermath of Dick Grayson's sister being revealed. And what I liked about the reveal is that, it could have been easily a cheating affair arc, and it wasn't that. It was, it still doesn't erase Dick Grayson's parents' love for each other. It was a previous relationship before them, and they just weaved it really well where this can work without erasing Dick Grayson's history and actually just expanding on it. It felt like an expansion pack on things we already know. It is a very exposition heavy issue, but it doesn't feel like I'm being explained to. Because of the emotions and because of the dialogue work, it really felt very natural to hear this story. And overall, a very solid issue. Now, it does slow things down because you are hearing a story or you're reading a story, but it really sets up for the future in a good way because we don't know if the sister's a villain. We still are questioning that. And there's still a lot of interesting stuff to be told here, and I'm curious to see where that dynamic is going to go. I thought it was a really solid issue, and that was my pick of the week. And of course, the artwork is so good, especially, it's always so hard to have an exposition issue where, how can you make the art exciting? And it still was really exciting. We get some good flying Grayson moments as well. So like I said, 4 stars for me. That is my pick of the week. Of course, in the comments below, let me know what your pick of the week was, because now we discussed the viewer's pick of the week. And from last week, that was Sinister War issue 1, the same pick of the week I had. And here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Definitely follow me on Twitter or Facebook. Go check out my comics like Father Like Daughter, They Call Her Dancer, and our free webcomic, Slice of Life. And of course, every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time is Comic Book Weekly, where we discuss our favorite comics and comic book news. Thanks, guys. Bye.